It has been 1 month since getting my Ortur LaserMaster 2 Pro laser engraver, so it's time for a real-life review, thoughts, experiences, and everything of the sort. Hey everybody, my name is Sam, and welcome back to Samcraft. That's right, it's been a month since this laser engraver plopped into my workshop, and it's time for a review Samcraft style. I never like to really give reviews of tools when I first get them because honestly, no one knows anything about them at that point. I always like to try and put my tools through the paces, use them for a while, in some cases a very long while, and then once I know the ins and outs, ups and downs, good and bad, my experiences, and the review. This is one of those cases. It's been a month since I got the LaserMaster 2 Pro laser engraver from Ortur. That's a heck of a name. And so I wanted to go through the bullet points, thoughts, experiences, ideas, everything of the sort. First up, let's talk about the reliability of the tool. Have I had any issues, any problems, any kind of accuracy problems, and machine disconnects? Yes, on the last point. I have not had any problems with the assembly. The product itself is still together. Everything is fine. Nothing has broken bad. Okay, something's broken, but it's not bad. And overall, it's been pretty good build quality and done fine for my uses. The biggest issues I've had with reliability are with machine disconnects. Now, I don't know if that is the machine itself, the USB cable, which came with the machine, or the tablet and some kind of interface with Lightburn that don't always get along nice. The amount of disconnects that I've had have been very minimal. I want to say probably 8 out of the probably 300 jobs and things that I've made on it so far. So from a percentage standpoint, that's not too bad. It's not the end of the world, but it was an issue that has actually taught me some skills and made me change my workflow a little bit. Running into these disconnects on jobs was annoying, to say the least, because most of the time it would mean that the stock material that I was engraving was trash. However, having the disconnect issues happen a couple of times, I quickly learned to modify my workflow, modify my design process in Lightburn to where if the disconnect happens, if something goes south, I'm able to recover and keep my project going a lot more easy. So I guess in the end, that's not a bad problem to have because it's enabled me to hone my skills as a designer for Lightworks. So it is what it is. As far as the disconnect types, there have been some from the flame alarm, and I'll talk about that later, but the others have just been generic G-code errors. Something to the effect of it's trying to move where it already is, the code is not working right. I don't really know. Usually the fix is to stop the job, rehome the machine, and start over again. I don't ever have to tweak the G-code file or the design file itself, so I don't think the issue lies in Lightworks. It's probably just more of a communications issue, or I don't know, fluke of the machine and communications. If the frequency of disconnects picks up, or if I finally get to the point where I'm tired of it, the next thing I'm going to try is putting a new USB cable into the mix between the tablet and the machine and make sure that cable has the little iron ferrule EM things, little magnet blocks to help everything communicate smoothly. I did something similar to that with my Shipoko Pro CNC. Although I never had disconnects before with it, I haven't had them since, so I don't know. But that would be my first step to try if the disconnects keep on happening. As far as accuracy of the laser engraver, it seems to be fine. However, my uses for this have not been something to where inaccuracies with the machine or margins of error would play a part. I have not cut anything out to assemble. I've not been making any kind of mortise and tenon joints or really do anything that allows me or requires me to assemble what I carve or cut out. So that being said, I guess I can't really speak too much to the accuracy of the machine. It does fine for my uses, but again, I'm primarily just engraving surfaces. Alright, let's talk about usability of this machine. In my shop, in my real life, how much use have I really gotten out of it, and how useful is it as a tool? I am very surprised with the laser engraver. It is a tool that was never really on my radar. I was not seeking out a laser engraver when this company reached out over a month ago. They just were looking for somebody to do a product review. I said sure, but I was not expecting to really like the machine as much as I do. This is not a love relationship between me and the company. It's more a relationship between me and the tool and the capabilities of such tools. So this applies to all diode lasers, CO2 lasers probably, and everything else out there that I don't know anything about. The speed of their tour is pretty good. It's able to go up to 10,000 millimeters per minute, which is one of their selling features. I have run a couple of jobs that fast, but had problems with disconnects, like I said earlier, which made me step the speed down. And once I stepped the speed down to around 5,000 millimeters per minute, I didn't have any other disconnects or issues. So while I can technically go that fast, in my experience, I don't run things that quickly. I'm going to create a dedicated video all about the things you can engrave and make and do on the laser engraver, so I'll definitely deep dive into that later. As far as usability, things you can put on this machine, it's a lot more than you would ever think. Well, okay, it's a lot more than I ever thought, not having researched all the options. You can pretty much laser engrave or etch on all surfaces within a reason, not like crazy surfaces. But things such as ceramic tiles, slate, stone, some metals, some plastics or acrylics. You can do wood, of course, and you can do glass or mirrors, and it's just, you know, honestly guys, it's surprising the number of materials that you can put on this machine and get something off of it. Alright, no doubt one of the biggest questions you guys are going to have as far as usability is how thick of a material can this machine cut? I have not had any luck getting any thicker than, I want to say 5 millimeters. I did load a sheet of 1/4 inch MDF on this machine, and after so many passes it finally did start to burn through, but the quality and the time investment and the outcome was not of anything that I would consider real life usable, so I don't even want to say the machine can go that far. If you're looking for what thickness of material this machine will cut, I would say you're stuck with something about this. About 1/8 of an inch plywood, the thin little wood that you can get off of Amazon, eBay, wherever. The things that most people will use for coasters or something of the sort, that's about as thick as this machine will cut. Now I say that with the footnote of anything's possible with enough time and enough passes and air assist and everything else you might be able to add to it, but from a real life usability standpoint of not spending a couple of hours on one cut, you're really going to be limited to the thickness of the material with this machine. I'm going to call this section shop variables. It's all the things that this machine, being in my small workshop, has happened, I've had to do, and kind of work around with. Followers of my channel will have seen where I built a 1/2 inch plywood backer board and hung the laser on the wall, and then quickly followed up with this table you see behind me. There were no problems with mounting the laser on the wall for storage. Absolutely fine, worked great. The thing that I really ran into was the fact that I was starting to use this machine a lot more than I ever anticipated, and decided to give its own dedicated space in my workshop. Being that I use this machine as much as I do, I decided to dedicate some shop space for it, and there's a video on building that simple little scrap wood table if you're interested. So one thing to take into account, and it's probably something that you're going to be doing anyway if you're looking at a machine, is where will the machine live? It's easy enough to mount this on the wall like I did and put it on top of a workbench or table saw or any other tool, flat surface, whenever you want to use it. But bear in mind that if you're doing this as a side hustle or small business like I am, you may find that this tool is extremely useful and you may want to have a more dedicated space for it to live. In addition to that, one of the biggest things with laser engravers is that they will produce smoke fumes, noxious chemicals, and things you don't want to breathe in as you're engraving surfaces. So you want to make sure you keep in mind to have it close to a window with a fan if you need rudimentary stuff such as I have, or possibly put it on a cart, wheel it outside. But you want to take into account and take steps for your ventilation to be safe. You don't want to be huffing stuff in your shop. Well, I mean, I wouldn't want to. Another shop variable that I'll talk about more in another video. Yeah, I got a lot of videos in my mind here as far as small business workshop stuff, but to just stick to point on this video, laser engravers come with their own set of, I won't say default products or dedicated products, but there are certain things you will want to buy to make things from, so you want to make sure you've got some storage space lined up, or at least think about it a little bit. Currently, I've been using the drawers in my CNC table for a lot of my storage, and then other things that I just have too much of live in their boxes, usually from Amazon. They ship to in, and they're just here in the workshop until I turn them into final products and ship them out the door. If you have a very small space or limited storage spaces, that's something to take into consideration. Just kind of think ahead. If you're wanting to go down the road of a small business, making some money, you want to make sure you have your stock blanks or your material on hand so you can produce the numbers and anticipate those products you're selling to be rolling out that door quick so you can keep up with customer demand. Like I said, I've got other videos in mind and I'll talk about this more later. It's much more business minded, so it's not specific to this tool itself, and we'll cover that later. Alright, now we're going to get to the bullet point that I think a lot of you guys out there are waiting for and really wanting to know, and that is, okay, what's wrong with the machine and where do you see room for improvement? So, Ortur, if you're watching this, listen up, because here's Sam's suggestions for you, like he's got any kind of street cred. This machine is marketed as a pro. It has the word pro in its name, so it's already coming with preconceived notions that it would be a step up from baseline models and have things in place that lend itself to more production scale usability. At least that's how I interpret the word pro in a product's name. So there are a couple of things where Ortur let me down when I saw or read that it was a pro, getting it in the shop and realizing that, well, it's not really pro, is it? First and foremost is the X-axis cable management. They do great to give you a drag chain for your Y-axis, and that is awesome, but they do nothing for your X-axis. As you're engraving things, that wire is going to drag and roll all over the place. If you have very lightweight objects you're engraving that are not securely attached to your work surface, it's going to move them and mess things up, and otherwise just kind of get in the way of things. I really would have expected some kind of cable management to be in place on a pro machine. Drag chains are super cheap. They didn't have to use a drag link. They could do something other than that, but some kind of solution to keep the wires up off the table would have been really expected. Number 2 on my needs improvement list is Z-axis adjustment. This model has 2 thumb screws, and that's what you loosen to adjust your Z-axis and focus your laser. That's terrible. It is so tedious. It is not exactly right. Even though if you use that spacer, you get it right, tighten the screws down, you go to move that spacer, it moves a little bit. I would really like to have seen the tool-free adjustment come on this pro machine and not be something you have to buy extra from Ortur. Having to fiddle with these thumb screws and everything is annoying and would lead to people taking shortcuts and getting lesser quality end products with their items, but then overall just be a bottleneck for production. My recommendation is to add the tool-free Z-axis adjustment to the Pro out of the box. Don't make people pay extra for that. The last improvement that I would give Ortur, if anyone out there is listening, is to include an air assist nozzle with this machine. As I got this machine and started to learn more about diode lasers, I quickly learned that having an air assist system is considered vital by many for any kind of woodworking, and it's something that I went down the road of, well, can I get it from Ortur? No. Who can I get it from? And I ended up buying a 3D printed piece from an individual. Given the importance and popularity of putting air assist upgrades on these machines, I really think Ortur should look to adding the nozzle and tubing, at least the nozzle, just the nozzle itself, so that their users and customers can have the step forward for air assist and really step it up and make their machine more pro, as it's advertised to being pro to begin with. Alright guys, there are my bullet points, my Samcraft version of reliability, usability, shop variables, and improvements to the Ortur Laser Master 2 Pro Engraver. This section has to have the disclaimer that I did not purchase the Ortur laser myself. I was sent it from the company in exchange for making videos, educational content, and providing information to you guys. So the whole question of would you buy it again can't really relate to me personally, but I'll try my best to answer that question. As of the making of this video, the Ortur LaserMaster 2 Pro is around 500 bucks, sometimes less, sometimes more, depending on where you get it from. So considering this is a $500 tool, would I purchase this one again, or would I get something different? That's a difficult question to answer because this machine really is good. It is 100% usable. I have not had any major problems with it. Any of my issues I've been able to overcome and learn workarounds from, and it's still very, very usable. In fact, it's almost become the new keystone of my small business, which is a big surprise. That being said, one of the things I've come to realize with this machine is while it can do 16 by 16 roughly in engraving, the majority of my projects are small engravings. They're 5 inches square or less. So while I don't need the machine itself to be able to engrave large things per piece, it is nice to have that much usable work surface to be able to batch out products. Again, another video coming down the road. So many things. I'd have to say that after the month of being used in my shop and literally making hundreds of items to sell to customers, yes, this machine is worth the money. I would buy it again. In fact, I've been really surprised at how much this has become a keystone of my business just in the month that it's been here. Now that being said, if your goal is not to be a business, you just want a laser engraver to kind of play around in the world, see what it's about, maybe make some things here and there for friends and family, and otherwise, you know, just have a cool tool, I would probably encourage you to do some shopping around and look for something that possibly fits better in your budget, if budget is a concern, or footprint in your shop and things of the sort. There are a lot of diode lasers out there, a lot in the world are emerging, and so the world of this type of hobby, I don't want to say a hobby, but hobby-sized machine in workshops is only going to grow and grow. There's going to be new manufacturers, new models, new companies pop up, so definitely always do your own research, especially because you're watching this from the future and there's no telling what is actually going to be out there at this time. Well, your time. Okay, I hear you. You're like, Sam, come on. You didn't really answer the question. Would you spend 500 bucks for this machine? I gotta say that would have been a hard sell. It would have been a very hard sell to myself and my wife and everyone who really cared to say, hey, I want to drop 500 bucks on this new machine, this new technology, under the pretense of I think I can make money off of it. So in that case, I probably would have stair-stepped into this. I would have probably purchased a cheaper model, played with it, tested out the waters of the capabilities, and then gone from there. I say probably because I say all this in front of the Shapeoko Pro CNC, which was my first CNC, which is not an entry level, so I don't know. Hypocrisy abounds. Alright guys, there you have it. Samcraft's 1 month review after many projects, after many items, after changing where it lives in my workshop, and thoughts of the Ortur LaserMaster 2 Pro. If you have any questions or comments, definitely leave them for me down below. I'm sure I didn't cover everything. There are hours and hours worth of questions, comments, and commentaries that could be happening around this machine. So definitely let's drop it down in the comment section and we can talk about things from there. If you have any questions about anything otherwise, or ideas you'd like to see me make from the shop, I'm open to it. Otherwise, I'm just down here by myself, thinking up things on my own. So, hey, requests are acceptable. Otherwise, appreciate you guys watching as always. Take care. I'll see you guys next time in the workshop.